Botswana International University of Science and Technology, Botswana. He published around 73 research papers in reputed international journals, and also he has published more book and book chapters. He has really 50 conference publications, both in national and international level. He acted as an editor and reviewer for various reputed journals. Also, he has obtained research grants from various institutions and from various reputed concerns. So on behalf of organizing committee of IRMAS 2021, once again, it's my pleasure to invite Mr. Dr. Ravi Swamikannu, Associate Professor from Botswana University. Welcome you, sir, for this keynote speaker.
Thank you, madam.
Yes, thank you, sir. Sir, over to you, sir. Ravi, sir.
Okay, madam. Thank you. Thank you for the organizing committee for giving me an opportunity to give the keynote address for this conference in an electrical topic. And good afternoon to everyone. Good afternoon to the participants. I hope the presentation is visible to everyone.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Whether I should zoom it or it is fine. Is it visible to everyone properly?
Little bit zoom, sir. I think it is fine. Page is visible.
I think this is fine.
It is guided. Yes, sir. It is.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Just put Control L.
Zoom, sir.
Control L if you type it.
Control L. Just a minute, sir.
And coming, sir. It's not doing it.
Is it fine, sir, now?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
It is.
Yes.
Okay. It's okay, sir. It's visible. It's okay, sir. It's okay, sir.
Okay. Actually, I just presented through the PowerPoint instead of PDF.
Oh.
Okay. Can I start, sir?
Yes, sir. Please.
Okay. Good afternoon to everyone. Good afternoon to the participants. I'm going to give a keynote speak on intelligent energy management of electrical power systems. I am Professor Ravi Swamikannu, working as Associate Professor in Electrical, Computer and Telecommunication Engineering, Botswana International University of Science and Technology. My specialization is from power systems and energy engineering. So generally, everyone, we know the electrical grid. When we see the electrical grid, it is not generating power. The generating power, it is in different places we are having it. Like we may have the coal power plant in one particular place because the coal is available in that particular location. We may have a hydro power plant because we may have the hydro resources. We may have a nuclear power plant because we need a lot of water. Near to the seashore areas, we can able to get the water. So normally we build the nuclear power plants near to the seashore areas. Then when we look the wind, we have a different locations. We need a sufficient wind to generate the wind power. So if you look, the generated power, it is happening in different places. We cannot able to generate the power in one particular location because of the availability of the resources. So these resources are scattered. So we are having the power generation stations also in scattered places all over. The generated power, it is connected to the grid. Through the grid, we are supplying the power from generating station. Then we are transmitting the power, distributing the power, and supplying that particular power to the consumers. The consumer, we can say, maybe a industry, maybe a commercial building, or maybe a residential building, or for agricultural purposes also. So generator power, it is transmitted, distributed. The system, entire system, it is called as electrical grid, or we can say it is an electrical power systems. So when you look this diagram, this is the structure of the power systems. So the power plant, it is generating power in different ranges. It can generate power in 11 kV. It can generate power in 33, 66, 132 kV in different ranges. The generated power, to reduce the transmission losses, it is stepped up, and the voltage level, it is increased. Then it is transmitted. This section, it is called as the primary transmission station systems. So we can say we are transmitting the power in these places in high voltages. So when we are transmitting the power in the high voltages, we can say we are reducing the I squared R losses, because these transmission lines, they're carrying the power for longer distances. Then again, we are reducing the power. We are stepping down the power by using the step down transformers, and we are having the primary distribution, secondary distribution, and the secondary transmission sections. So at the end, if you look, the transformer, step down transformer, it is supplying the power to the residential buildings. It is supplying the power to the industries directly from the substations. So this is the structure of the power systems. So in the structure of the power systems, we can say the energy flow, we given more importance. We are not given importance for the information flow. So earlier days, we given more importance to the energy flow, and we are not given importance to the information flow. But nowadays, because of the developments in the grid, it is very, very important to give importance for the information flow also. So when we look the world electricity generation by source, the fossil fuel, it is contributing more compared to the other resources like hydroelectricity, nuclear, and renewable energy resources. It is 2015 data. If you see the power generated in terawatt hour, it is more than 15,000 terawatt hour. It is generated by fossil fuels. So the remaining, if you look, we have less contribution by the renewable energy resources, and hydroelectricity, it is contributing next to the fossil fuel. Nuclear energy, it is in the third position. If we look, this is the world electricity generation, but when we look about the installed Indian generation capacity, it goes around 375 gigawatts as per the last year data. In this, if we see which one is contributing more for us, the fossil fuel, it is contributing more. It is taking around 79% of power we are generating with the help of the fossil fuels. So the remaining around 17% we are getting from the renewable. So the remaining we are using some other resources. So mainly in India, the generated power, it is supplied majorly to the industry, because industry, it is using around more than 40% of the generated power. Next to the industry, residentials, they are using around 25% of the generated power. Then next to that, agricultural purpose, we are using 18% of the power. In this 375 gigawatt of generation capacity, coal is the main contributor. Coal, it is contributing around 53% of the power in India. Next to the coal, we are having more contribution through the renewable. Renewable, it is taking around 24%. Then when we look after renewable, we are having hydro, because we know we are having a lot of hydropower plants. Hydropower plants, it is contributing 12%. Next to the hydro, we have gas, and we have some other resources like lignite, we have gas, and we have nuclear. So we have a different power plants contributing for the total generation in India. Mainly when we look from this data, we can say fossil fuel is contributing more. But as for the Paris Agreement, we are in the position of reducing the greenhouse gas emissions. So to reduce these gas emissions, we need to go more towards the renewable resources. That is the main thing. We need to reduce the fossil fuel usage and we need to use more renewable. And we need to use more information flow instead of only having the energy flow. So what are the different problems now presently we are facing with the power sector? We are not able to connect all the houses because some of the tribal areas, some of the hill areas, we are not able to connect. Some of the countries, they achieved already 100% of electricity. They are giving 100% of electricity to all the customers, to all the public. We cannot able to give equal electricity distribution because when it comes, normally we give more preference to the industries. So industries should get power always. Then we have the different problems of the power pricing because if you look, the generating stations, they are spending much money on power generation. But when it comes to the consumers, we are not paying more. So all the utility grids or the electricity boards, they are running in loss. Then information lagging is also an important problem because we need to have the load estimations and adequate supply resources, supply failure. Because sometimes when we don't have a coal or if the coal is not efficient, if it is not giving a high calorific value, then automatically there may be a problem of the efficiency of the systems. This can also leads to the supply failure. Then the losses, the theft, electrical theft, electricity theft, and other losses because of the old transmission systems. We are having a lot of losses in the power sector. And normally when we go for the new power projects, always public, they against to us. And resistance to the energy efficiency, theft of the power. These are the different problems we are normally facing in the power sectors. We need to overcome these all problems to give a proper electricity to all the consumers without having any interruptions. So what are the different problems when we face when we are developing new power plants? Mainly we are having a problem of the land acquisition and the land availability, the clearance. Example, if you want to go for a hydropower plant, we need to get the clearance from the state governments and the Ministry of the Environment and Forestry. So we are not able to go further for the hydropower plants. So we need to more goes towards the renewable energy resources. So what are the different problems we are facing in the grid? If you look at the grid operation, it becomes very complex, escalating because of the expansion of networks, because we are expanding the network to all the rural villages. Grid disturbances always happening because sometimes there may be a problem of connecting a heavy load with the systems, with the utility grid, or maybe there is a loss in the power plant. So we are facing a different problem. So it is very difficult to maintain the grid operation properly. So as I told you earlier, initially we given more importance to the energy flow, not given importance for the information flow. So when we look here, why we now giving more importance to both energy flow and the information flow, it is because of these blackouts. So if you see the first blackout, it is happened in 1965. It is affected more than 20 million people in New York and New Jersey and Ontario. Then, you know, the oil prices hike in 1973 and 74. That is also created a lot of problems because we are not getting a sufficient amount of oil. So that is created an energy crisis between 1973 and 74. Then another energy crisis, it is happened in Western Europe. It is started in 2000 and ended in 2001. So it is affected more than 1.5 million customers. So here I'm showing a different blackouts across the world after 2000. So if you see here, we faced a lot of blackouts. These blackouts, it is happened because maybe a failure in the power plant, or maybe a failure because of the storm. We faced a different problems. These different factors affected the supply of the electricity and a lot of blackouts happened. So if we look what the challenges we are facing in the grid distribution sector, mainly the technical losses, theft, inefficiency in billing and commercial losses, and both in the prepaid and postpaid. Normally India, we are doing the postpaid. But in many countries, they do the prepaid, like how we get the airtime. The same way, we the airtime also we have the postpaid and prepaid. In many countries, the utility grid, they are operating based on the prepaid. So you need to pay, you need to get a particular amount of kilowatt hour, then you need to use it. So when we look the aggregate technical and the commercial losses, they are not same in all the regions. Okay, because of the outdated poor transmission and distribution systems, we have the high commercial leakages. So these high commercial leakages, if you look, it varies from 4 to 40%. These are the different challenges in the grid distribution sector. Other issues is proper metering, we are keeping the proper tariff because we are not able to raise the electricity bill every year for the usage. So normally what we are doing, we are not raising the electricity bill based on the utility grid recommendations. We are raising 3 years once or 5 years once. So we cannot able to fix the proper tariff. Shortage of the coal. So if there is a shortage in the coal, normally we are importing the coal from the other countries. So gas availability is less. Pollutions, it is generated more by the fossil fuels. These are the different other issues we are having in the maintenance of the utility grid or electricity grid. So what we are doing is we are moving towards the smart grid. So already we have a grid. This grid, it is upgraded in a smarter way. So when we are upgrading this existing grid in a smarter way, it is called as the smart grid. Okay. So smart grid, what it is doing, as I told you earlier we given more importance to the energy flow, but here we are going to give importance to the information flow also, information technology also. So smart grid, it uses information technologies to improve how electricity travels from power plants to the consumers. And the earlier days, we don't have any way to communicate with the grid. But now we have a communication way to make or to register your complaints to the grid, and you can able to evaluate how they are performing for your complaint. This all it is possible in the smart grid. Earlier days, it's not like that. You need to go to the utility grid office or electricity office, then you need to make a complaint. You need to register a complaint for the problem. But now you can able to give a complaint through the phone. So, and also we can able to interact with the grid. We can able to see when we are using the smart meters, we can able to see how much amount of power we consumed in this month, as well as we can able to see what is the consumption last month. So all informations we can able to pass to the utility grid through the smart meters. So when we look the smart grids, it integrates new and improved technologies into the operation of the grid. So in the smart grid, if we see, we are using electronics and communication infrastructures, advanced to process automation and information technologies. It is not only thinking of supplying the electricity, it is thinking of it's how it is delivered and the other related services related to the electricity supply. That also we can able to get by using the smart grid. So energy industry, it is modernized in the electrical grid. So here a picture, it shows how the past system and the present grid system we are having and how the future grid systems it will be. So earlier days, many countries, they didn't allow any other individual power producers. So the power it is produced by the government, and only the government they supply to the consumers. Even still in many countries, the power production it is not allowed to any other individual power producers, only the government is maintaining. Some countries, they are doing the same for the electricity and also for the communication side also. For the telecommunication side also, they don't allow other individual companies. So when we look, the earlier days, we are having a systems, a grid connected systems. The power it is generated, it is stored, and we are supplying the power to the customers through the substations. Then the present grid systems, if you look here, we have a transmission control center and we have a distribution control center. So we can able to monitor the systems properly when we are having the transmission control center and distributor control center. And also you can see in the present grid systems, we introduced the renewable energy resources also. So we have some other individual power producers. So the individual power producers, they generate power and they can able to supply to the grid. Through the grid, we can able to supply the generated power from the renewable as well as the power from the fossil fuels. We can supply it to the other consumers. But when you see the future grid systems, we can see here we have the transmission control center, distribution control center, and we have a energy service providers. And we can able to connect electric vehicles and we can able to supply the power to the different consumers. And also you can look here, we have the generation power, the generator power, it is supplied directly to the grid. And also you can see here, the generator power through the substations, it can be supplied to the consumers without connecting to the grid. Actually, we can able to have a isolated systems or we can have a grid connected system. So this is the future grid systems. So the conventional grid, it is using electromechanical, using one-way communication. There is no interaction between the consumer and the grid. Centralized generations. So centralized generations, the problem is you are connecting different resources. So maintaining the system, it is very difficult. But when you go for the distributed generations and isolated systems, a particular community, a particular village, it can get supply through the individual power producers. Even the community, they can build their own solar systems or they can build their own wind power generations. They can build their own biogas plants. They can able to supply the generated power to the consumers. So we have few sensors. Smart grid, it is having a sensors throughout the systems. Manual monitoring, self-monitoring, manual restoration, self-healing, limited control in conventional grid. Smart grid, it is having a pervasive control. So few customer choices, but smart grid, it is having a many customer choices. So that is the reason I told you we can able to interact with the grid. So here, if we look the principal characteristics, what the today's grid, it is having a problem of, it is not having the self-healing natures. But if you see modern grid, it is having the self-healing nature. It includes the consumer's modern grid. It can able to resist the attack like cyber security attacks. Even you heard about the recent attack, it is happened on the nuclear power plant in Kudankulam from North Korea. So we have a resistance to the attacks in the energy sectors, providing a better power quality by using a different compensation devices. And we can able to accommodate all generations and storage options when we are going for the smart grid. It can able to give markets. Even you can motivate the individual power producers. The individual power producers, they can sell the generated power to the utility grid. Optimizes assets and operates efficiently. So optimization, it is very, very important. And how we are using the manpower, that is also very, very important. These all we can able to achieve in the. So when we look about the smart grid, we can able to give major 5 drivers for the smart grid. The first one is policy and legislative drivers, electricity pricing, smart grid options. As I told you earlier, we need to call the individual power producers. So the individual power producers, they can invest money to generate power. So the policies of the countries, it is not same all over the world. Many countries, they allow the power producers, they can produce power, they can sell it to the grid. But in many countries, they didn't allow the individual power producers. That is the reason they are not able to achieve 100% electricity supply to the customers. Then economic competitiveness, we need to create green jobs and the technology regionalization, it is important. Energy reliability and security. So we need to reduce the labor cost and we need to improve the reliability. We need to reduce the theft and fraud, loss, and we need to maintain the energy properly. The fourth one is customer empowerment, empower the customer satisfaction level, performance-based rate behavior. Then environmental sustainability, this is very, very important. We need to support the government mandates because all the countries, they made an agreement in Paris that the developing countries and the developed countries, they should reduce the carbon as emissions, right? And we need to give more importance to the renewable energy integrations, and we need to give importance to the distributed generation integration also. These are the 5 major groups. So here I just specified about the benefits of the smart grid. We need to have an operational efficiency. We need to achieve energy efficiency. We need to achieve the satisfaction from the customer, and we need to achieve the green agenda. So here when I look, if you look here, we have the generation, the generated power transmitted, distributed to the industry, commercial building and residentials. So here in all these places, we brought different smart grid concepts like wide area monitoring and production control, large scale renewable integrations, adaptive protections, advanced automations. So we have different points for developing a smart grid in the present systems. When we look this first one, it takes the generation, transmission and distribution, wide area protection and control. Building home automation, it is also a major important field in the energy management in the areas of industrial, commercial and residential. So we have different factors, smart grid technologies. They are spanning across the entire electrical grid. So when we look this smart grid technology landscape, some of the technologies it developed well. Some of them they are developing in a faster way. Some of them they are developing in a moderate way. Some of them they are not developed. So when we look here about the energy management systems, we need to have advanced system operation. The maturity level, if we see it is developing, the development trend, it is moderate. Advanced system management, it is developing fast. Advanced system planning, it is also in moderate. When we come to the home building automations, it is developing. So the development hub, it looks very faster way. So home automations, building automations, nowadays we are giving more importance for this. And also when we are talking about the management of the energy, then we need to talk about the smart substations, because now we are having a substations. These substations, it is working in a smarter way. So generally, if you see the substations that supply the power to the consumers, it is getting the power from the transmission distribution systems. Generally, it functioning mainly for voltage transformations, connection point for transmission distribution power lines, switchyard for electrical transmission and distributed system configurations, monitoring the control centers, and communicating with the other substations and the regional control centers. So here, when we are talking about the production monitoring and control, now mainly we are depending on the intelligent electronic devices. So these intelligent electronic devices, they are the microprocessor based devices, which is having the capability of exchanging the data and the control signals with the another devices, right? So we can able to transmit the information to the other IED devices, or it can generate and transmit that information to the meters. It can able to send the information to the supervisory control and data acquisition systems also through the communications link. We have different communications concepts. So we may have sensors here. These sensors may be two types. One is a single sensor which can serve different types of IEDs. Another one is single sensor which can able to serve for the large number of IEDs via the process bus. So now if you see substation automation, in the substation automation, or when we look about the utility grid, we are having a SCADA systems. The SCADA systems, it can able to monitor the entire power system network properly. So this SCADA, it is using different control plant processes like oil, gas industry, electricity generation, transmission systems, water plant, manufacturing industry, and the packaging industry. So when we look the energy management systems, it is having a 3 hierarchical levels. One is system control center, area control center, and remote terminal units. Normally, these remote terminal units, it is placed in the places of the substations. From there, we receive the information to the area control center. From there, the information is transmitted to the systems control center. So when we look the remote terminal unit, it can able to monitor the entire systems. Based on that data, what it is measuring, it can able to give a control feedback. Like here, if you look the modern energy management architecture, you have a field devices. The field devices that is called as the remote terminal units. These field devices measure or sense the informations through the communication systems. It sends the informations to the data acquisition server. It is called as a front-end processor. From this front-end processor, we can able to send the informations to the historical data server, real-time data server, application servers, and the operator, he can able to monitor the data from the workstations. So here, when we see the data, whatever we are collecting from the substations through the remote terminal units, that data it is transmitted to the regional center, the regional SCADA energy management system center. From that, it can be sent to the national SCADA energy management center. So the SCADA systems, it is collecting the information through the RTU, transmitting the information to the SCADA master station. From there, it receives the control signals. Based on the control signals, it actuates. So this is the picture, the SCADA system data flow architecture. Here, after the SCADA, we are having a server-based substation control system architecture. So as I told you, we are having the IED devices. These IED devices that is sending the information to the energy management systems through the communication technologies. And also through the substation server, we can able to collect all the informations from the serial IED, mini RTU, and from the network IEDs. So here we are integrating the SCADA systems for the smart substations. When we have the SCADA it is having the energy management systems and the distributor management systems, DMS. Then it is having the power equipment sensors, data like transformers, breakers, positions, reclosers, positions, current transformers, and potential transformers information. These informations, it is transmitted to the smart substation. So when we see SCADA, what it is having, then when we are integrating the automations in the power systems for the smart grid operations, what we are having. Now, when we look at the smart substations, it can able to have a enable of system-wide interfaces and applications, substation monitoring and security, enterprises access to non-operational data, EMS, DMS interface, local human machine interface, IED integration, process bus. So we can able to bring all this in the smart substations. The smart substations in the smart grid architecture, when we look, we are integrating the smart substations in the smart grid architectures. So when we see here, we have the substations. The substations, it collects the all informations. This collected all informations through the communication systems. It can be goes to the meter data management, distribution management systems, energy management, outage management, asset management, engineering data warehouses. So all the informations it is transmitted here to make the electricity grid into a smart grid. So earlier we are using more towards the SCADA, but we are having different problems in the SCADA because SCADA it is not collecting informations continuously. It is collecting the informations in different intervals. So the intervals, it is larger. So phase angle measurement problem, time delay, and the synchronization issues makes bringing the phasor measurement unit in the systems. So when we look the phasor measurement units, it is having more synchronization. It can provide magnitude, changing rate of frequency. We can able to collect the data 30 to 120 times per second. In 1 second, we can from 30 to 120 times. So here we have a comparison figure between the SCADA and the PMU. When we look the PMU measures 30 times per second, showing the oscillations, but we can see the SCADA, old technology measures voltage every few seconds. So to get an accurate data, it is better we should use the phasor measurement units instead of the SCADA. Because if you see the SCADA, it is not showing any oscillations, but the PMU is having a showing the oscillations, but it is taking the data, more data in 1 second. And also we have another problem because the theft, it is always there in the grid. So the existing meters taking a more time, and we are having a labor. The labor, he comes always from the utility grid. He measure the amount of consumption, what the individual consumers they did. And it is not accurate sometimes. Sometimes the labors, they don't come. So you go and pay for the utility grid, how much you used for the last month. The same amount you can pay the next month also. So in the smart meter, what we can do, we can able to bring different detailed electrical consumptions, as I told you earlier at the starting. And also we can able to get the power outage notification, and we can able to maintain the power quality, time of day charges, because in peak time, this time of day charges, it can able to make us to reduce the usage of the electricity in the peak time. So these all we can able to achieve in the smart meters. So history of smart meters, mechanical meters, we started manual metering, progressive rates, manual metering. When we are coming to the smart meters, remote recording, dynamic electricity price, real-time informations, all communications we can able to do to the utility grid through the smart meters. Then the main another one important is outage management systems in the energy management. So when we look the outage management systems, we have the manpower. The manpower should be used effectively to rectify the outages. A system of computer softwares, hardware, because we don't know where the fault it is happened, where the outage is happened, the outage it is because of what. So a computer hardware, software, telecommunications, and other operation policies and practices that enables electric utility employees to better manage their response to customers' power outage. Because normally the power outages should be addressed immediately by the utility grid. So when we look here, restoring the network model after an outage, because we may have outage, that outage should be replaced immediately. So we have an interactive voice responses. Normally, when there is an outage, immediately we call to the utility grid. We ask them, okay, when we are going to shut off this outage. And customer information systems, the customer information systems, normally when the utility grid, when they do a maintenance, they update the customers in this particular area. We are going to have an outage in this day. Then we have a GIS, geographical information systems, where the fault it is in the grid. That is also need to be identified. Web map. Then we have a mobile workforce. The mobile workforce, they move on the road. So they get updates from the utility grid. Okay, in this particular area, there is an outage, go and rectify. So the mobile workforce, they can able to go and they can able to rectify the fault, or they can rectify the outages. So automated meter infrastructures, it can able to tell you whether there is a supply to your house or whether there is any outages. So these all work together and manage the outages. So the outage management systems collect, organize, and display data from the field, customer feedback, field QV feedback, and the data from the SCADA and the smart meters. Major functions of the outage management systems: prediction, the transformer, fuse, recloser, and breaker positions; location of emergency facilities, size of outages and duration of outages; calculations and estimations of restoration times; management of crew, calculations of crew required for restorations, whether how many members, technical people, they needed in that particular location to rectify that particular outage. So this is also a major function of the outage management systems. So when we see the outage management systems, that should work very effectively, and it should give a more timely data, accurate data, and also it should access to reviews and the updated data. In that particular location, if there is an outage, that should be recorded, okay? And it should be recorded with why the outage is happened, in how much time they rectified the outage, how many consumers they are affected by that outage. So all this information, it should be updated in the database. And also the another one is disaster management. Normally we know sometimes for the natural disasters, we always have the problem that should be also managed properly in the energy systems. Management, increased visibility and clarity for executive management, better utilization of all enterprise systems and applications, improved organizational efficiency and effectiveness, also important in the energy management. And also when we are in the 21st century, the customer service, it is very, very important. More reliable electric service, situational awareness, timely, accurate communications, personalized response, we need to do for satisfying the customers. So when we are seeing about the outage management systems, it is also an important cornerstone of the smart grid. So distribution fault identification, voltage, VAR control, distributed generation, storage, batteries, PHV connections, then charging electric vehicles, customer demand and energy management, microgrid operations, because we cannot able to extend the grid because of different reasons. The investment cost when you are extending the grid to supply the power to a isolated community, we need a huge investment. Instead of that, we can go for the microgrid systems. So these all important in the smart grid from the outage management systems. Then we are having IoT concepts also to manage the workforce and the fleet. IoT is mainly used in the energy sector, because when you are talking about the smart city is also one concept of the smart grid. So when you are talking about the smart city, it is using a lot of IoT devices. So IoT devices, we are having 3 different ranges: PAN, personal area network, local area network, and the neighborhood area network. So and also we have metropolitan area network, wide area network. So if we look all this, in this all, some of them, they are used in the distributed energy resources area, like neighborhood area, that is used, that is depend upon the size of the generation systems and the area, how much it is covering. So here, so smart grid and IoT connectivity, how they are involved in transport network adoption layer, and typical link distance, typical link bits per second, and device density. So the next one is about the distributed energy systems. Because in the distributed power generations, we can able to supply power to the consumers instead of extending the grid. So when we are going for the distributed energy systems, we are improving the reliability. We are generating the power in the site. So there is no transportation cost. Example, if you have a coal power plant, the coal power plant, if you don't have a coal resources, you are bringing the coal from the other town. So it involves the transport cost. But when we look the on-site power generations, in the same place, you are generating the power and supplying the power to the consumers. So it is reducing the cost, complexity, and the inefficiencies because we are not connecting to the grid. So there is no problem of the generated power connecting to the grid. You are supplying directly the generated power to the consumers, improving reliability. So we have a different distributed energy resources. Some of them, they are popular. Combined heat power, fuel cells, hybrid power systems. Maybe you have a combinations of biogas with other plants, or you have a combination of solar and wind. Micro combined heat and power, micro CHP, photovoltaic systems that is normally used in many countries. Wind power systems also used in many countries and in communities also. Reciprocating engines, tidal and ocean thermal, biomass and biofuels, micro turbines. So they are the different distributed energy resources. Some of them, they are having more popularity. Some of them, they are having a less popularity because of the cost investment and the problem in the operational maintenance. So central and distributed generation. So central generation, if you look, we have a lot of complexity in the central generations. But when you go for the distributed generations, it is having a lot of advantages. Instead of connecting to the grid, we can go for the distributed generations also. Here I am showing a case study. This is a case study which we did in Ethiopia. So here we taken a small town, a small village, you can say. In the small village, we just estimated how we can able to develop a hybrid energy systems. So, and how we can able to optimize the cost also. When we see here, we taken different data. So when we are going for a renewable energy system development, we need a database like these data we can able to get from different resources. NASA, they have their own resources. You can able to get the data from the NASA. And all the countries, they have their meteorological stations. These meteorological stations, it can able to give the information about the solar radiation and the wind power, all these informations we can get. So we collected these informations. So we have the informations. If you look the first informations, it is from the meteorological stations. And if you look the second informations, it is from the NASA. So when we see, we can say the accurate informations we can get from the meteorological stations. So we have the annual average. What is the solar radiation at the project site? And here we have a wind speed annual average from the meteorological station when we are having the 10-meter height, 25-meter height, and a 50-meter height. So in this case study, we taken for the energy management, we taken the primary load. So the primary load is we taken 2 schools, 8 shops, 10 cafeterias, a small cafeteria, small coffee shops, 2 clinics, 1 private clinic and 1 government clinic, and 1 veterinary center, 1 historical monastery, and 5 government-owned small houses and offices. That is including a municipality, agriculture, and police stations. Then we calculated how we can able to satisfy the demand by using a PV panel and wind turbine. These simulations we are developed by using the Homer software. So we developed how much PV panel we need, wind turbine we need, battery, and pumped hydro storage systems and the converter size. And here we have the capital cost in dollars per kilowatts. Then what is the operation and maintenance cost in dollars per year? Replacement cost. So the replacement cost normally, if you look for solar, it can work efficiently for 25 years. After 25 years also it can work, but the efficiency we are not going to get the same amount. So what we need to do is we need to add additional panels to produce the same output power. So we saw what is the size and the cost of the equipment. And when we planned it, finally we came to a conclusion. We need a higher initial investment cost compared to the existing hydropower station. So when we are looking at this, the government agencies should give subsidies to develop more photovoltaic systems. So when we have a subsidy, the cost of power generated by PV, it can come down significantly. So when we look, the cost of the energy for the system, it is found in the ranges of USD of 0.35 per kilowatt hour to 0.39 kilowatt hour. The net production cost, if you see, this net production cost is higher than the present systems. But when we look of the carbon footprint, the suggested idea is to go more towards the photovoltaic and the wind renewable systems. So the another one case study, this case study, it speaks about the distributed energy systems. This is also it is supported by a funding agency. So here we taken a data. Initially what we developed is, we developed the PV systems for the school and staff housing. In a small rural village, we developed a PV systems for a school and staff housing. It was functioning properly. But the government is not invested the money. The funding agencies, they invested money for this towards electrifying the rural villages. Because many of the schools, if you take the African continent, many of the schools in the African continent, they don't have the electricity supply. The rural villages, many of them, they are not connected with the utility grid. If you look here, Botswana is a country having a good economy as well as a good developing country. If you look, Botswana, it is having a efficiency of 65%. It is supplying only 65% of consumers. 65% of consumers, they are getting electricity from the utility grid. The remaining 35%, they are not supplied with the electricity. Especially if you look, many of the rural villages, in the schools in the rural villages, they are not getting the electricity. The government, they are sponsoring diesel generators to run the schools to get the electricity supply. But when we look about the gas emissions, it should be avoided. So now the PV, it is getting more attraction. In that concept, we developed a system for the school and staff housing. So we calculated the demand in the kilowatt hour per year. That system is working properly. So what is the output of these systems? When we look the outcome of the systems, the developed systems, the outcome, when we look, the outcome can give a lot. Like the students, the performance, initially before they have electricity, it's not good. But the percentage of pass rating, it is improved when they are supplied with the electricity. Now the same system, we are expanding that same system for the other houses in the village and also the other government buildings in that village. Like the government, it is having an office, a village administration office, and they have a small clinic. So these all under the public, they are all going to get supply. So this is the estimations we did 2 years before. So here I showing you some pictures. If you look these pictures, you can see we provided rooftop systems. So when we look the rooftop systems, we have the water heater. And here, if you look, this is in the staff housing. So they can able to charge the mobile phones. They can able to heat the water, and also they can able to run other appliances, and also they can able to use a modem. So this all improving the lifestyle of the people. Here the students, they enjoyed the usage of the electricity. So when we look from this, we did a survey. As I told you earlier, the pass rate of the students also improved. Not only this, when we develop this type of systems, this renewable energy systems, it can able to generate income to the people, those who are living in the villages. Like they can able to run shops, small shops. They can able to run some bar. They can able to run some printing offices, like they can able to run some computer stations, they can able to print, they can able to make photocopies. That way they can able to generate the income. So not only supplying the electricity to the rural villages, that is not only the focus. The focus is how that is improving the lifestyle of the people, how it is generating an income to the people. So the another one energy management factor is cybersecurity. Cybersecurity in energy sector is a main issue, as I told you earlier. So here these are the different cybersecurity attacks in different power plants. So if you look, what is the amount of money they are spending to study about the cyber crime? If you look in 5 years, they spent an amount of $8.75 million. So as I told you, in the smart grid, we are bringing the smart city concepts also. Now in India, they are doing a lot of smart cities development projects. So the smart city development projects, it is mainly helping the public services. It is improving the energy and efficiency, water and environmental, building and homes, and mobility and transportations. So this is including all IoT concepts, integrating the information technologies, maintaining the data, cyber security, and collaborating with the government. So another one concept in the smart grid is electricity charging stations for the electric vehicles. These are some of the references which I used for this presentations. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thanks a lot. Isra ma'am?
Yes, yes.
Any queries from the participant side? Any questions from the participant side? Wonderful presentation. I think so. You start from the energy side and you went into the respect to IoT automation sides. Wonderful presentation. Happy to see you, sir. The Saktil Center for Automation. So, what are things they said? Sir, one question from my side. Is it audible, sir?
Yes, sir. I'm hearing you. You can talk, sir. I'm hearing you.
So, one question from my side. So, what are things you're saying that now, if you take India, we are taking this smart city, the entire things, smart cities and promoting smart cities. So, what are things you said exactly correct? So, implementing the IoT concept to convert all the things into the smart cities, okay. But is it possible now all the Indians also keep on saying that electrical vehicles, for example, as you said, but is it possible to convert all the commercial? That means what I'm saying that for commercial purpose, is it possible to convert all the things into electrical vehicles?
It is possible, sir, but not immediately. It may take some time. But if you look, all the countries, they are working towards mainly bringing the electric vehicles. But it takes some time, not immediately. But maybe if you look, now we have a lot of two-wheelers. Now we are concentrating more on the electric vehicles. And also mainly now, if you look, the government is also brought some rules like if the vehicle is 15 years or 20 years older, then we should not use it. So this is, I hope that they want to bring more electric vehicles instead of having a, yes, sir.
Yes, sir. What are things as the Indian government is had a plan, they passed in the budget. That means they passed in the bill. But I think so after the election, they're going to say that after 15 years vehicles and 20 vehicles going to be completely scrapped. But one thing is from my side, as you said in the Boston, around 65% of the country, people in the country only getting electricity. Since the same thing is applicable, but anyway, the percentage is reduced in India. But since what happens, just 10 years before, if you refer the past, around 22.5% of the rural areas in India is not got the electricity. Since Modi's keep on announcing in the election campaign, for example, if you're going to Assam, the interior areas, the rural areas and the scheduled areas, what he announced that, what he assured that you'll get electricity. Since in this side, the electricity is having some demand. See, we're not giving electricity to all the peoples, but at the same side, what happens, we keep on doing the research by implementing the electric vehicles. My correct side. That's the thing. Is it possible? What I said is it possible to utilize the electricity, give the electricity to all the rural areas and parallelly going for batteries, fuel cells and batteries. So many concepts are keep on doing. The research is going there. ARI is also promoting. But how far its feasibility is that's a problem in India. Am I correct, sir?
Yes, sir. As I told you, like we are going to bring more electric vehicles, but it takes some time. And also, if you look the population, that's also a major factor. If you look, India is a very huge populated country, and we have a different resources. But when I'm looking at this Africa, they are not having many generating stations. Like if I can say in Botswana, we have one power stations, that only one coal power stations that is supplying to the entire country. And also some of the countries here, they are connected with the neighboring country grid. So here they are making it as a business also. Like example, Botswana is getting supply from, sometimes if there is any interruption in their grid, they get supply from the neighboring countries, from South Africa especially. When they get supply power from South Africa, they are paying more to their utility grid. So what is happening is, some of the countries, they can isolate their own country people from the utility grid. Sometime they can supply the power to the other countries, because when you supply the power to the own people, you cannot able to charge them more. But when you supply the generated power to the neighboring country, you can able to sell it for more prices.
What are things you said is applicable to Tamil Nadu as well, sir.
Yeah, because if you look, we give more importance to the industry. Industry, they should be get supply all the time, but it is not like that for the residential. Especially if you look, we have a big difference in the rural and the urban areas. So if you look, the urban areas, they are always supplied, because the urban areas, they are having the schools, clinics, hospitals, and the universities.
Okay.
But when we go for the rural villages, they don't have anything like a hospital or a university. So we are giving more importance to the industry, then we are giving more importance to the urban areas, then only we are giving importance to the rural areas. So that's the thing I showed in the slide also. The power, it is not equally distributed. So like how we say income per capita, like energy per capita, it is also important. When we look, if you see America, it is taking more energy per capita, even though population is less. But the more populated countries, energy per capita is less. Yes, sir. India will bring more electric vehicles, and they will get 100% electricity supply soon, but it takes some time, sir. But India, they done well, because if you look in the slide also I showed you, India is getting power around 25% from the renewable energy. That is a good factor. If you look coal, next to the coal, we are using more renewable and hydro. So if you see, if we add hydro and renewable, it is around 36% we are getting from the renewable energy resources.
Okay, sir. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thanks, sir.
Thank you, sir.
So thank you, sir. Ravi, sir.
Thank you, madam. Thank you.
Okay, sir. On behalf of organizing committee of IRMAS 2021, I would like to thank Dr. Ravi Swamikannu for his informative keynote talk. So thank you very much, sir, once again.
Thank you, madam. Thank you so much. Thank you for the organizing committee for giving me an opportunity, and as well as I thank the audience.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you,
sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay,
Thanks a
thank
lot,
you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Welcome, sir. Thank you.